Have you ever wondered what's really like to leave everything behind and start over in a new country? I'm sure many of you have thought about it. Maybe it's a dream, maybe it's a fear, or maybe you're on that journey yourself right now. In today's video, I'll share with you my own immigration story. I'll take you through why we left, how it all happened, and the place I ended up in. But here's the thing to keep in mind. It's not just about moving from one place to another. It's about the challenges and the growth that comes with it and how you adapt to new situations. Hey peeps, welcome to the channel. My name is Aziz and I'm a 24 years old salesperson in the tech industry. And on this channel, I try to share my life experiences so people that are in the same spot I was a few years ago can learn and benefit from. In today's video, I decided to introduce myself to you guys just to learn more about me and give you a little bit of background about myself. Let's get to it. My immigration journey started from Iraq. I am originally from Iraq and we left Iraq in 2006. The reason we left Iraq was because of the civil war that happened in 2006, which was a big concern for everyone, to be honest. So nobody was safe back home in 2006. So we decided to leave, and when we decided to leave, we decided to go to Syria. Now, we already knew what's the best place to travel to, and the reason for that is because my dad used to own a business, and his business was driving people from different countries. So from Iraq to Syria to Lebanon to Egypt to Jordan. When people wanted to go to Jordan, he will be driving them or one of his employees will be driving them, etc. So that was his business. And the reason we chose Syria was because it bordered Iraq. That's first. Second, it was one of the cheapest option out there. Third, it was one of the safest option, and Syria was more open. Like, I wouldn't say more European open like type of vibe, but more open than Iraq or Jordan or Egypt, etc. So that's why we decided to go to Syria, and we lived in Syria from 2006 up to 2012. Now, I obviously grew up there because when I left Iraq, I was 5-6 years old, and when I left Syria I was 11, 12 years old. So my whole childhood was in Syria, and it was one of the best times I've ever had so far in my life, in my 24 years old. And there's a reason for that. The reason for Syria being my fun time is because when I was in Syria I was a kid, so there was no responsibilities, and the only thing you had to do was just like do homework, and after you do your homework you go on the streets and play either soccer, pool, darts, all these like bar games, or go walk around like as a kid with your friends, make friends at school, make friends outside of school in your like block. But it was one of the greatest experiences so far for me. However, that wasn't the case from the start. From the start, there was like some challenges. One of the challenges was the acceptance in the country and between the people, because in Syria there wasn't like lots of Iraqis migrating from Iraq to Syria or refugees. But after 2003 and 2006, we came to Syria in like high volume, and Syria was almost full with Iraqis. So that's the acceptance there, because for them it was more like a shock. They weren't used to that, specifically the kids my age. So that's one. Second, the language dialect. I know like we all speak Arabic around the Middle East. Almost like 90% of the Middle East speak Arabic, but some words are like totally different from country to country. Like you can obviously have a conversation between Iraqis and Syrian and almost any Middle Eastern country, but the first few months is going to be like difficult because some words you won't know. Not difficult for older people, but difficult for kids. Because when I was speaking to some kids in school, when I was trying to open conversation with them, I was saying certain words in the Iraqi dialect, which the kids couldn't understand, and vice versa. So that's why it kind of like created a bit of friction to make friends like the first, I would say, 5 months. But then I managed to start understanding some words And then it became a bit easier for me to open conversation and like being eager to say words, new words that I just learned in grade 2. That was grade 2. So yeah, one of the challenges was not very much about me or like something I encountered. It was more about my mom. My mom was a single mother, so if anything happened to us in Syria, like if we need to go to hospital, if we have a doctor appointment, or somebody had a fight with me or tried to pick on my sisters or whatever, we didn't really have, like a father figure to, or like a man to back us up. So it was all my mom herself, which obviously caused a lot of stress in her life, which is obviously understandable. And my father, like, he wasn't fully in the picture. He was providing from like overseas, like he was still doing his business, going from Iraq to Syria to Lebanon to Jordan, and just dropping people off. But he wasn't fully with us. He was just there financially. Like, he didn't let my mom work. He was still providing for the house where we lived in Syria. So he was there financially. I just don't remember him much like being around us. He used to come and visit in Syria here and there, but that was really about it. Another challenge that we had was my middle sister couldn't really adapt quickly to the situation. That was kind of like difficult to everyone in the house, because she was like making drama almost every day, just crying, and she just want to go back to Iraq. So she couldn't adapt quickly, which is fine, right? But as kids, we can't do much other than cry and move forward and move with your life, because at the end of the day, you're not really feeling it as much as your mom or your uncle or your brother, your older brother, etc. So as a kid, like, you don't feel it much when you move to a new country. I personally adapted kind of like quickly. Like, I know I was gonna be okay, even though I couldn't like make friends like the first few months, but I knew that it's gonna get better once I learn certain things in their culture and in their language, because language was a big portion for me when I got there. That was my biggest challenge. In terms of adapting to the country and our new place, I was fine. But keep in mind, I'm younger than my sisters. I got 2 sisters. One is 4 years older than me. One is 2 years older than me. So to me, when we moved there, I was 6 years old. They were a bit older than me, 6 or 5 years old, and they were older than me. So it was a bit more difficult for them to adapt. For me, it was like, I could make it happen. I didn't have much challenges in Syria. Syria was beautiful. It was a lot of nature, a lot of good people, very friendly people, very helpful people, genuine, like actual genuine people that are willing to help. We weren't in a bad situation, and everyone around us was kind of helping us because they knew my mom was a single mother. So everyone was kind of helping us. There was no issue from that, and everyone was actually supporting us because we were foreign. Syria was a lot of fun. I used to go to school, and after school we used to go on the streets or go play Counter-Strike with my friends, and it used to be safe. It used to be beautiful. It used to be really good times. It's really good, fun times, but we had to leave in 2012. Now, why we left in 2012? We decided to migrate to a European or Western country because we knew that any Middle Eastern country is not going to be safe in the next decade or two. So my mom had the vision to build for us a future somewhere outside of the Middle East. And the country we decided on was Canada. So my mom decided to go through that process in 2010. In 2010, there was absolutely nothing wrong with Syria. It was still beautiful. It was still one of the safest countries in the Middle East. We used to go to fucking movie theater at 1 a.m. and then after the movie theater, we go and eat shawarma at like fucking 3 a.m., 4 a.m. It was a country you really felt home and really wouldn't mind to live in there your entire life. Then either mid 2010 to 2011, not sure, some people didn't like the Syrian president anymore, and they decided they want to create a free army, which is basically an army that's against the Syrian government, or the government's army per se. So they called themselves the Free Army and decided to start attacking the actual army because they wanted the president to leave. So from there, kind of everything started falling apart in Syria. Nothing was safe anymore in Syria. We had to be home before dark. And when I say it was dangerous, it wasn't really dangerous where I was at in Syria, but we came from Iraq. And Iraq, you kind of never know. You'll be walking, you get kidnapped. You'll be walking or playing soccer, you get bombed. So you just wasn't certain of anything, because anything could really happen. So we kind of like just started like in Syria, staying home, get home before it's dark, we don't go out late. And that was really it for Syria. And we stayed like that for like 6 months, I believe, in Syria, where the situation started happening. But the only reason we left in 2012 wasn't because the Free Army, it wasn't because it wasn't safe anymore. The only reason we left was because the Canadian embassy, where my mom applied for immigration, either got bombed or got closed. I don't fully remember. I think it got closed. I think they closed, so there was no more Canadian embassy in Syria. So the Canadian government kind of gave us two options: either drop our files or go to a different country that has Canadian embassies. And for us, my mom was not gonna fucking drop all the files that she was working on for the past 2 years to get to Canada. So we had two countries to go to. I don't know exactly why we only had two countries to go to, but I think I know the reason. I'm just not sure of it. So we had two countries to travel to, either Lebanon or Jordan. And the reason I think we got only two options was because we had families in both Lebanon and Jordan. Like, I think we could have gone to Egypt. I think we could have gone to, I don't know, another Middle Eastern country, but we only had two of these options. And we ended up in Lebanon. So December 2012, we left to Lebanon. In Lebanon, we had my aunt from my dad's side. My aunt was married to a Lebanese guy, and they lived in Lebanon, and they accepted to live with them. They had two houses. One was like the vacation house, which was I think like up north by the mountains, and their second house was like in Beirut, which is the capital of Lebanon. So it was kind of like in the city. So they lived in the city, we lived in the mountain where there's the other house that they have. Lebanon is where I experienced shitty type of lifestyle. The reason I say that, because we came from Syria, we were used to like going out until like, you know, fucking 4 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning. Yes, like the last few months wasn't like that, but the majority of the times we were in Syria, we were like always up to like 2 a.m. Like when I say up to 2 a.m., stores and like lights in the streets and busy roads, like people didn't sleep back then. Like it was just insane. And in Lebanon, it was like a same system as like a Western country or a European country. I don't know about European actually, but because I've never been in Europe, but let's say same system as in a Western country where everything is closed by 7 on Sundays, everything is closed by 9 on any other day. So it was like, shit, after 9 we can't do much. So that was like a, you know, like if you need anything, make sure you get it before fucking 9. And that was like a challenge for us, but because we couldn't adapt to that quickly, because we didn't feel as free as we used to. It was like 180-degree change. It was just a whole different fucking world, even though they were like bordering each other, but a whole different lifestyle. It was a totally different country. Not something we're used to at all. Then after living for 6 months in my aunt's husband's house, he decided to kick us. He didn't want us there anymore. We had to move. Lebanon was expensive, extremely expensive compared to other Middle Eastern countries around it. So it was a whole challenge in Lebanon. Lebanon and Jordan were two expensive countries compared to Iraq and Syria. But we chose Lebanon. We didn't have much to choose from. So after we got kicked out, we had to move somewhere. We had to rent somewhere, right? And in the mountain, you can't really rent in the mountain, because in the mountain they're all like, people own their houses and they just want to, you know, like leave it for their vacation, or if people live there, all the time, they don't want to rent it because they live there. So we had to rent somewhere in Beirut, which is in the capital, in the city, and that means it's a lot more expensive. My dad's cousin had an apartment there, but she's married to an Italian guy and she lived in Italy her entire life. So that apartment was kind of like vacant. So we went to that apartment and we rented there. Now, my aunt that's married to a Lebanese guy, she actually helped us with the monthly rent, with the monthly payment for that apartment. I think she paid a couple $100 and we paid the rest. I don't know how much was the apartment, but I think it was around $600-700 if I'm not mistaken. I might be wrong, but she did help us with a couple $100. After we moved from the mountain, it was a bit more nicer because in the mountain you can't do much. There is no stores. Like if you want to go to a store, you need to drive like 5 minutes or walk 20 minutes to go for like groceries or to buy something, to buy clothes or to buy anything. Like the stores were like 20-25 minutes away from the house walking. So yeah, in the mountain we couldn't do much really. It was a lot more on the depressed side. So when we moved to the city, it was a lot more things to do. You can go out, you can go buy clothes almost from anywhere, or you don't need to buy anything. You can just like walk around and see the stores, see people at least, right? And to me, because I was bored, I decided to work. So I worked at a hair salon where I used to clean the shop before the owner comes. I used to wash women's hair and get them ready to the hairstylist. I used to bring them coffee, water, etc. And it was fun, to be honest. It was a lot of fun. It was right in front of my building. So it was like literally just across the street, not even 30 seconds from my place. So it was fun, met people. The owner was genuine, was very helpful, was nice. The person I was working with was extremely nice. It was a good experience, to be honest. All my coworkers in that place were genuine, were helpful, were funny, were friendly. It was just an extremely nice experience. This job felt more like on the real side, because in Syria I also worked for like, I don't know, maybe 6 months in like a grocery shop where I used to deliver groceries to people. In Syria, I think when I worked, I was like between 8 and 9. It was totally optional, but I just wanted to work. And I just wanted to experience what the adult life is while you work. So that's why I started working in Syria. But it wasn't like very real. Like I kind of was working, but my friends on the block were always coming to me playing soccer. When there is like a delivery, I just go and deliver it. Like it didn't feel like work. It felt more like I'm helping the owner, but I'm still getting paid. That's how it felt. But in Lebanon, when I was working, no, there was like an actual shift. It was actual work. So it was shit. That's when it clicked. I was like, shit, that's what the adult life feels like. I was like, damn it, nice. I liked it. Now, the big difference between Syria and Lebanon when I moved there, I couldn't adapt quickly in Lebanon because it was extremely new to me. I was also a bit older when I moved to Lebanon. I wasn't 6 years old. I was almost 11-12 years old when I moved to Lebanon. So it was a whole like lifestyle shock, culture shock. The way they speak is different from other Middle Eastern countries. They make fun of you of the way like you speak because it's the dialect is very different. Their accent is very different. I just couldn't adapt quickly, but that was a blessing. Why? Because when I moved to the third country, it made it easier for me. And the reason I say that is because it kind of like set the stage to what I will be expecting when I arrive to Canada. If you enjoyed this talk so far, I'd really appreciate it if you can hit the like and subscribe button. Fall 2013, the Canadian Embassy called us and told us that, hey, here is the time you're traveling and here are your tickets. My mom was extremely happy, and I think everyone cried out of happiness. It was such an emotional moment that I cannot forget. It's always in my mind. Like, I can see it live in my mind. I can easily close my eyes and live that moment over and over and over again if I want it. Everyone was happy. Everyone was hugging each other. It was just beautiful. So when we came to Canada, we came through a United Nation process. And when you come to Canada, I don't know about other countries, but specifically Canada, because that's my experience, through a United Nation process, they kind of take care of you the first year. So when we got here first, we got into like a mini hotel. I think back then we used to call it Costi. I don't know what's it called, to be honest, but that's what we used to call it. It's like a mini hotel for immigrants, and this place is meant for new immigrants that just came to the country, and the new immigrants will stay in this mini hotel for a couple weeks, some people 1 month, some people few months. And when you're in that mini hotel, they kind of take care of you. They make you file for social insurance number. They help you set up bank account, credit cards, and answer any type of questions that you might have. And they will actually help you find a home, find a building to be in, find a house to rent, and they will take your opinion if you want to move there or not. So kind of like how it worked back then. I don't know how it works now, but back then it was like they asked us what city you want to live in, and do you want to live in a house or in an apartment. They start looking for whatever you told them to look for, and they come back to you with the results, different type of options, and you either choose from one of these options that they came back to you with, or tell them, hey, like, I didn't like any, please find me new ones, or the price was too expensive, I can't afford that. We asked them to live in Toronto or North York because we already had family there, and those family were my father's family. His cousins and his uncle lived there, and we already had strong relationship with this family because they used to live in Syria as well, and we used to hang out back then. So we already knew them, we already had relationship with them. So we moved to North York. When we moved to our new house, the government also supported us by providing some furniture such as couches, tables, beds, table lamp, and other furnitures. They supported us with food and also provided for us a guide that would help us for a year to answer any questions we have or take us to any type of place that we want to go and visit or file any type of legal documents. To be honest, the guide was not helpful at all. And also I've heard a lot of bad experiences about like people's guide, and they're always not the best. But yeah, whatever, like we had our family, so we were like kind of set from that end. But if we didn't have our family, that would have been a big issue for us. And I just want to take a moment to show my appreciation to this family because they actually took really good care of us, and without them we would have been lost because we couldn't operate. We didn't know what Walmart is, we didn't know what Costco is, we didn't know where to get groceries from, we didn't know where to buy anything. So without them, we would have been totally lost. Now in Canada, everyone in my family faced so many challenges. The weather was a challenge. After 1 year, we didn't know what to do. We didn't have a roadmap. After the government stopped giving us money and stopped supporting us, we didn't know what we will do after that. How is the rent's gonna get paid? My mom never worked before. So it was all those like challenges started adding up, and we didn't know what to do. My sisters and I were young and we weren't appreciative enough. My mom was stressed all the time. So what my mom started doing, she started saving that money that was coming from the government and just preparing us for our next year. So she did that, and she noticed that that's still not going to be enough. We need to make a living here. Nobody's supporting us. How are we going to be able to live? Bear in mind, my mom never worked after she got married. So she got married around 30. When we got here, she was 55, 50. So that's like 20, 25 years of not working. But the only way to survive in Canada was for her to work and provide for us because we didn't have anyone to provide for us. So she started working at a factory. That was the biggest challenge for her and for us as well, because we were left alone at home, and that's something we weren't used to before. Also, we've never seen our mom work before, and her work was night shift. So it was kind of difficult for everyone because we sleep, my mom goes to work, we wake up, my mom is sleeping, so we kind of never saw each other, and that was a challenge for all of us. Now, when we went to Canada was December 2013. It was one of the nastiest, one of the coldest winter I've ever witnessed. It was extremely cold. Thankfully, the government gave us jackets, hats, gloves, socks, all for winter, just to be able to do basic things, because with our jackets that came from Syria, that came from Iraq, we absolutely couldn't do anything with them. Those jackets were not designed for fucking Canadian winter. I remember every time I went out, my back used to hurt because it was like too cold. I couldn't move properly. It was just a disgusting winter. In January 2014, we enrolled in high school. That was like a second term of high school. And that's basically where most of my challenges have started. The reason for that is it's kids, right? You're around kids, you're around people your age. And if you don't speak the language, they're gonna bully you. Being in a new country is already discouraging, and not knowing a lot of people is already discouraging, not knowing the language. On top of that, people making fun of you because you don't speak the language or because you said a certain word kind of differently. Like, for example, back then, if I said, I want water, I wouldn't have said it, I want water. I would have said, I want water. Or if I want to say I'm hungry, I would have said it in like a funny way or a funky way. So it was so easy to pick on a person like that. And honestly, like, it's understandable because it's funny from their end, but they couldn't see it from my end. So it's because we were all kids, right? So that was a challenge for me. I couldn't get any of their jokes. I couldn't get any of their metaphor. I was just a fucking nobody in a class that couldn't understand anyone. I was just wasting time, basically. I didn't like being with my sisters before in the same school, but when we got to Canada, it was a blessing for me that I was with my sisters and my sisters were with me, because we didn't have anyone until we met someone that was from the same country we were from, which is Iraq. And then we started connecting with this guy, we started going out with this guy, and we ended up being friends for a year and a half maybe, because he was already older than us. My sister also left when he left because both were the same age, I believe. So from around grade 9 to grade 10, maybe grade 11 first semester, it was always a challenge for me to connect with people that spoke English, because I couldn't have a proper communication with them. In grade 11 second semester, I believe, I'm not quite sure, I don't remember, I was in an English class and there was lots of Asian people in that class, and they were extremely friendly. And that's where they were like, hey, come join us, like, we're in the same class. After class, we don't see you, where do you hang out? And in that, around like grade 11, start of grade 11, I was comfortable having like a conversation in English, and that's where things started becoming okay for me. I'm like, this isn't a bad place. So we started chilling every day at lunch. After school, we always like had plans. Should we go to the mall? Should we go walk around? Where are we going? Should we go eat somewhere? So that's when it started getting fun. And around grade 11, I was able to legally work in Canada. So I started working in retail as well. So things started getting better for me. But working in Canada is very, very, very different from working in Lebanon or Syria. It was a totally different fucking environment, because in Lebanon and Syria I worked, but it really wasn't like this. It wasn't like you can't hold your phone, you gotta put everything in your locker. You can't speak to your coworker on a shift, otherwise your manager will give you shit. So everything was a fucking shock to me. It made me feel like an absolute slave, because in Lebanon, when I worked, like, you're chill. Like, if there's no work, you kind of like sit, you kind of chat to your coworker, you build relationship with your coworker, you make jokes, etc. Even with the owner, you're not just fucking standing doing nothing, but you have to stand and you can't sit. So that was a fucking experience for me. But it made me feel responsible and make me feel better about myself, because my mom didn't need to pay for my phone bill anymore. My English started getting better because I was speaking to my coworkers as well as customers. So things started getting better for me at grade 12 and onward. That's when I was thinking of like, okay, now I finished high school. What do I need to do next? College, university, and I got an extremely bad advice which kind of ruined my career, but that's totally fine. I'm in a better place right now. The bad advice was about like choosing between college and university, and the advice was choose college because you can get a job quickly. And that is true to some degree, but what they did not mention that with college, you'll feel limited. You will be limited with your options, and there are many reasons for that. I don't want to get into that now, but yeah, that was one of the biggest and worst advice I've ever gotten. So I got into college. I studied civil engineering. I didn't know what I wanted to do, to be honest. So my mom was like, just choose something, with engineering, any type of engineering, just choose engineering. So I was like, cool, fine, I'll go with civil engineering. So I went for civil engineering technology at George Brown College. I enrolled in 2018. I finished it in 2020. It's a 3-year program, but I did summer school as well, so that kind of cut it to 2 years. Made a lot of friends in college. College was extremely fun. It was one of my best time in Canada because I met great people. We bonded very well. My friends were awesome. I still connect with only a couple of them, but during college, we were like a group of like 9, 11, and it was extremely fun. We used to go to a class, go to a bar, go to another class, go back to a bar. It was just so much fun and a lot of money wasted, but that's something to learn from. Graduated in the worst time ever, COVID, and I really couldn't find a job in engineering during COVID, so I decided to go and work labor, any type of labor. So I went to work in the same factory that my mom worked at, and I worked there for almost a year, I think, from 2020 to 2021. Then I quit that job, things started opening again slowly, and decided to go and do construction. I got into construction, specifically spraying foam insulation in garages, and I did that for a couple months or 3 months. It was fun, to be honest. It's not as heavy as people might think. And usually when I say that to people, they think, oh, construction, heavy workers. It wasn't that at all. But what it was a lot of dealing with like chemicals, which could actually shorten your, lifespan. So that was the only downside of it. It wasn't like too heavy in terms of like physical work, but it was absolutely risky for your health. And yes, they give you masks and like certain clothes to protect yourself with, but at the end of the day, like, it's risky. You can't take that from it. If a foam touches your skin absorbs it, etc. Like it's not healthy. Like, it's always risk that there are clothes and masks that you wear, but they can't protect you forever. With construction, I decided to work Uber as well. So I did construction from 6 to 3, 6 to 4 around that time, and Uber from like 6 to 12, and then do that every day for 3 months. Then in 2021, November or December, I got a call from a company that I applied to, an engineering company, and they asked if I'm still interested in the role, and they wanted to do an interview with me. I ended up nailing the interview, offered the job, and I accepted it, obviously. When I accepted it, I was still doing Uber for a couple months. Then I quit Uber, just focused on my job. And around summer 2022, I was so bored after work, and my car was kind of like car payment, like it wasn't paid, and there was like insurance on it and, a lot of bills. So I was like, you know what? Fuck, I need to make money. I need to make more money to be able to pay for insurance, to be able to pay for the car payment, and be able to, save some money. So summer 2022, I ended up working landscaping weekends and Uber almost every day. I didn't need Uber every day. I needed it weekends, but I didn't need it every day. But I was like, you know what am I gonna do after work? So let me just do Uber. So I was working in engineering. I was doing Uber after my day job, and on the weekend I was doing landscaping. And after I finished landscaping, I was also doing Uber, because on weekends, that's where fucking Uber is more profitable, obviously. It lasted only 2 months like that. I think 2 months or 3 months, but then I broke my ring finger, my left ring finger, in landscaping. It was disgusting. So from that point, I just decided to quit all my side hustles and just focus on one thing. And I stayed in engineering for 2 years, but I knew that it's not for me. Engineering was not for me. The entire industry, the entire structure of the industry, it was just not for me. And I could totally make a different fucking video for that. So I decided to transition into an industry where you can actually earn money the harder / smarter you work. And to me, the obvious answer for that was sales. So from 2022 to 2024, I was working in engineering. 2024, I quit engineering and got into tech sales. I am in that right now. I work with a company called Codility. It's a SaaS company, and basically what I do is I try to call people and companies and sell them the service. I hope this story was interesting to you and you've learned something from it. My key takeaways from this story is to never call any country home, because really any country or anything can be gone at any time, and we're seeing that with Canada today, unfortunately. Second takeaway is struggles really make you a better human. It makes you empathize with people, and that would lead you to making better decisions for you and also others. But yeah, that's my story, and thanks for watching. See you in the next video.